Hey guys, welcome back to Lakeview Car Channel. Today we're going to be mounting the ECU. Alright guys, so obviously with the interesting engine combination with the car that I'm doing, I'm going to need like a custom ECU. There's obviously plenty of options out there with AEM Infinity and you know, there's lots. I can't think of any right now, but one of the more budget options that a lot of I guess budget-minded people do is called a Mega Squirt. So as you can see, it might be kind of obvious why it's a budget option. It comes in pieces. So like these are all the individual resistors and capacitors and diodes and all that. You solder it to this circuit board yourself. So because you're doing the assembly, this is like half the price of an ECU that's capable of the same stuff. So this ECU alone, just by itself, is $450-ish, and it can do, I think it's up to 4-cylinder. It can do 8-cylinder, 12-cylinder applications, but it'll do like batch fire, and it'll wasted spark, stuff like that. But you can buy this little expander card, and that's like $100, and you pop, it literally plugs right in, and it gives you a couple more options with the ECU. It makes it so you can do up to 8-cylinder sequential injection and sequential ignition, which means you could do a 16-cylinder wasted spark and batch fuel, which is really cool. All you really need to run one of these is a crank signal for your RPM and you know, all your injectors and like a coolant temp sensor, and it's got a built-in manifold absolute pressure sensor. So they're actually pretty simple to put on a lot of things. I know a lot of Miata guys switch over to these when they do turbo setups. Not a lot of 240 guys use them. Most of the time they get like the plug and play kits for their KAs or for the SR. But I already built one of these once, and we know it works. We got everything set up. So we're just gonna do it again because it worked really well the first time, and now I know what I'm doing. So this is the ECU case itself. Let's pop this open. This is the actual circuit board itself, which looks really intimidating. But if you know how to use a soldering iron, you can put this together. It's really not that bad. So pretty much every one of those little silver holes gets filled up, minus like this whole patch here. And I mean, that's pretty much it. Looks scary, but it's really not that bad. This is the one of the circuit boards. It's like an additional board you don't have to assemble, just because there's, you know, some microchips and stuff like that. So this guy literally plugs right into this guy, and all these little transistors and MOSFETs and stuff. This is what gives you the sequential ignition and fuel control. And there's a couple little pots for trimming up, you know, certain settings and whatnot. But yeah, it's $100. You plug it in and you get sequential fuel and ignition, so that's pretty cool. The website that I got this ECU off of, which is DIY Autotune, not sponsored. I'd love to be sponsored by you guys, but not sponsored. They also sell these pre-made harnesses that are 8 foot long. And they're a really great starting point, because most of the time you're not going to need more than 8 foot of wiring anyway. And cool thing about these harnesses is every single wire has a label. So see, that one's for that's for a CAN bus communication. Let's see, what's this guy? That's for injector bank 1. This this chromy one, I know that's for your crank signal for, you know, interference. Several ground wires in there. But I hate this chintzy plastic sheathing, so we'll get rid of all that. But this is how it comes. You know, the plug's already crimped on the end or soldered, however they connect it in there. So you literally just have to plug it in and then land all the wires and you're set. You don't have to mess with the little stock. They give you a little plastic connector in there to make yourself. I hate doing that. So buying the harness is a great way to make this go a lot faster and a lot easier. So also the cool thing is each harness, in case you can't read, you know, in case you're blind and can't read these little words on here, every harness actually comes with a little diagram just to get you started. Like on this car, I'm not going to be using these injector bank 1 or injector bank 2 because I'm going to use the secondary harness, which they call the MS3X harness, because that will have all my fuel and spark control on it. This one is really just going to be used for coolant temp, air temp, throttle position, crank sensor, maybe a idle valve, run the fuel pump, little stuff like that. O2 sensor. And then the other one will take care of all 6 of my LS coils, all 6 of my injectors. This harness also has some cool stuff on it, like nitrous control and launch control and 2-step wires, which I guess launch control is 2-step, but you know what I mean. So obviously this one comes with its own wiring diagram as well. Looks kind of confusing, but it's really just a lot of repeated stuff. So these 6 are for spark. These 6 are for injectors. You've got a couple, like this is for a cam input, because when you do sequential, you need a cam input. And then other than that, you see you've got nitrous, boost controller, nitrous 2, tack output if you need to output tack to something. If you want to do variable valve timing, it'll do that, and then another idle. And really other than that, you can run an external map sensor, flex fuel. It's just a very capable unit for a really low price. Like for all this stuff here, I paid like $750. A lot of ECUs, like a Haltech or anything like that, $750 won't even get you the basic ECU. Or if it does, it'll get you something that can do like bare bones, just like run the engine. It can't do all the extra stuff. So yes, with this stuff, there's a lot more labor involved for the end user, but I prefer this because of the budget. So first step is building the ECU. All right, guys, so unfortunately I didn't get to film any of the assembly of my Mega Squirt, but we decided to go with a MS3X. So that's Mega Squirt 3 with a 3.0 circuit board, which just means you build it yourself. If you got the 3.57, it's pre-built. So this is a 3.0, so I soldered on all these resistors and capacitors and microchips and all that stuff. This board came separate. This board came separate. This is actually the whole brains for the sequential fuel and spark. So I can do up to 8-cylinder sequential fuel and spark. We're only going to use 6, but it just uses this ribbon cable, goes on right there and there. But the instructions I followed did leave out this resistor, and from my research, this resistor powers the fuel pump. So I'm just going to solder that in real quick. There we go. All right, so I'm just going to reinstall my expander card. And guys, the main reason that I went with the do-it-yourself, like assemble-it-yourself kit is because of the price. I think if you pay for assembly, it's like another like $200 or $300. So I figured I'd go with the cheaper option because I know how to solder and it's really not that difficult, and I've done one already. So we've got these 2 little end caps that'll finish it off. All right, so my Mega Squirt MS3X is done. You'll notice on this side, 2 plugs, one for each harness we bought. There's the built-in map sensor right there. You just run a vacuum line to it off the manifold. And then we have 2 tuning ports, a slot for an SD card for data logging, and then 3 like status LEDs that'll give you different like trouble codes and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm going to grab the old one so I don't mess up this one, and we're gonna start trying to mount it in the car. All right, guys, so obviously this car, not perfect. It's gonna be more of a track car for me. So we're just gonna get rid of anything like airbag related because we'll have harnesses, probably a cage, stuff like that. So we're gonna cut this out and hopefully mount the ECU right there. And if we do it right, I want to be able to remove the airbag panel in the dash and then have access to the ECU right there, just to, you know, hide it, but also keep it really accessible for tuning and whatnot. So yeah, let's go ahead and grab the angle grinder and let's cut the airbag out. All right, so there's the airbag out. Don't need that anymore. All right, so I thought these were gonna be a pain in the ass because everything's all rusty, but they're actually spinning out by hand. I'm like tightening them from this side so they're, you know, loosening from the other. So that way I can grab them from up top and spin them out. So we're just gonna, I mean, there's no point in grinding off these nuts or anything. We'll just use these threaded holes as our mount. Originally I thought maybe we'd have to cut off these nuts and put nut certs in there, but it's gonna work out for us. Alrighty, so this is my new dash that I bought. Obviously it's not brand new, but I got it from a guy for like $100, and I just had to pay for a little bit of his fuel so we could meet halfway. Because obviously mine got roached. And it does have a crack or 2 in it, but that's not a big deal to me because this car is not perfect. And if I wanted a perfect dash, it would have been like $1,000 or gotten really, really lucky finding someone that's parting it out and not asking an arm and a leg. Right now, I'm actually just working on taking out a couple HVAC tubes that we're not gonna need. So this car, the plan is to have just a little heater box for defrost and like foot heat. And other than that, we're not gonna need anything. So I'm gonna take this out. I'm gonna save this though, because who knows if I'll need it someday. And I'll leave these screws back in here in case I need them to mount anything. All right, guys, so after a little looking at it, it was just 4 nuts and then these 2 clips. I didn't know it actually had those little clips there. So what's neat is that it's almost made to be removable. And see, you can't even tell that anything's wrong. So what we're probably gonna do is put like a little red pull tab or maybe 2 pull tabs. And we're just gonna cut those studs off, maybe leave 2 of them kind of long, like locating pins. And then we'll just have the 2 little tabs. You can yank it up, just like that. And then the ECU, we wanna mount it somewhere in here like that. And obviously, there's a little bit of metal we gotta trim here, but other than that, then you can plug the cable right in. It's kind of nice and displayed. I don't know, I like it. So I think we're gonna do that. All right, guys, so after a little bit of kind of test fitting and mocking things up, we figured out that if we just make some flat brackets right off the old airbag mount and put the ECU right on that, it'll fit in there almost pretty perfectly. It'll be at kind of an angle, but the number of times that someone will see it when it's open is very few and far between. So as long as it's mounted, as long as there's room for the wires to come out, that's all I care about. So we got ourselves a nice piece of steel here so we can make some brackets. Got ourselves a few bolts for the to bolt it to the old airbag mount, and then a few smaller bolts to hold the ECU down to these brackets. So we're gonna go ahead and do a little drilling and cutting, mocking things up and tighten everything down. We'll see what happens. So you notice these bolts are old. We actually just, the bolts I bought were actually too big. I was just kind of guessing when we were at the hardware store. So I happen to have some extra in my spare bin of bolts, so we just use those. So yeah, I mean, that's, even just right now, that's pretty good. And just with, you know, 1 or 2 more little brackets down here, and that should be pretty solid. So let's grab the dash and just make sure everything still clears. All right, so we're just checking to make sure the dash still fits over all this. And that's not bad, especially once we get a, you know, the nice ECU in there. We probably still gotta trim this metal back a little bit just to make the harness clear, but other than that, I'm pretty happy. And then just gotta, and you'll never know. So our ECU is firmly mounted to the dash bar. We just welded a couple tabs over here. Put some nut certs in them, and yeah, everything worked out pretty good. The harnesses, they clear the dash and everything. It's gonna get sent right through the main harness hole back there. So yeah, we're gonna test fit the dash one more time and see where we're at. Alright guys, so that pretty much wraps up our ECU mounting. The next video in this car will be wiring. Everybody loves wiring. So we're gonna try and do like a brief overview. I'm not gonna try and get super in depth and make like an hour-long video. So we're just gonna try and do a just a quick look at how I'm gonna wire it and how I'm gonna set things up. But I'm not gonna go into every detail about this wire goes here, this wire goes there. But that won't be the very next video, because the next video we'll be working on this car, the Subaru. So we're gonna work on Nick's car in the next video and see some surprises come up. So thanks for watching again, guys. Leave a like if you could, it really helps us out. Comment something that you want, and subscribe if you want more content like this. Thanks guys.